Today's educational system was developed during the Industrial Revolution. And that's the problem. It hasn't changed in 150 years. In the US, schools are falling apart. In Africa, they don't even exist. We are short millions of teachers. The problems of education seem incurable. But with a shift of perspective, we can turn learning scarcity into learning abundance. During the Industrial Revolution 150 years ago, education went from the privileged and rich few to the masses, but it did so at a cost. In order to educate the masses, it went mass production. Kids were grouped by ages, they were all given the same assignments. It was an assembly line mentality. Old rote systems of learning don't work. So how do we teach kids to learn in the developing world? Well, as it turns out, kids are incredibly inquisitive. Nicholas Negroponte, the founder of One Laptop Per Child, did one of the first epic experiments, which he went to 2 villages with 20 tablets. Now, these just weren't any villages. They were villages in the middle of no place, hundreds of kilometers from any other individuals. He gave those 20 tablets to the kids and then left. In the course of the first few hours, the first child learned how to turn a tablet on and showed that to the other kids. By the end of the day, those kids were using a dozen applications on those tablets. By the end of the first year, they had taught themselves ABCs and had begun to sound out words.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J.
Imagine kids around the world, 100 million of them, with a tablet or a smartphone that don't need a school, don't need a teacher, who are engaged because it's gamified, it's fun, and they can learn how to read and learn to learn for themselves. Technology is paving a new direction, not one in which you memorize answers, it's one in which you ask the right questions. Today, what's valued far more is creativity, collaboration, and critical thinking. These are the 3 R's for the 21st century. We are about to create a world of global literacy, a world that is extraordinary, a world in which our children's future is much smarter than you think.
What is a video game? It's just a set of problems. It could be anything. Civilization has problems in history. Halo's problems in a fantasy world of fighting. Chibi Robot has problems on how a 4-inch robot could clean a house. It doesn't matter what the problems are. All a video game is a set of problems that you must solve in order to win. You want to know what I do? Well, oddly enough, I'm by training a linguist, and I still work in linguistics on a field called discourse analysis, which studies how people mean things and make meaning. And I only got into games and learning about 6 or 7 years ago when I was helping my 6-year-old play Pajama Sam, and then wondered what a more adult video game would be like, and went and got one, you know, arbitrarily because I didn't know what to get, and was really just blown away how hard it was. But after I played a number of hours poorly, I really was fascinated by this cultural phenomena that people are paying for a long and hard and difficult thing that has to be successful in teaching them to play it, because it'll go broke if it doesn't. And when I finally caught on to, you know, the theory of learning behind video games, which I think is quite different than how we learned in school, it became, to me, a life-enhancing experience. Take real-time strategy games, which are the most complex video games. A game like Rise of Nations has over 350 commands, essentially hundreds of variables interacting. You play it for hours, you run civilizations. I mean, it's just more complex than what any kid would see in school. We have evolved an almost perfect way to teach these incredibly complex games. So there are kids addicted to Civilization. I mean, and yet Civilization, I defy any adult to go play Civilization, and they will usually give up in 25 minutes. So let's talk about assessment, because assessment and testing is what drives our current school system. If you're not happy with how schools teach today, they teach that way because of the tests we have. So we've come to realize we're not going to change the paradigm of schooling and get deeper learning in it, learning for problem solving and innovation, unless we change the tests and change the assessment, because they drive the system. Now, here's a little thought experiment about assessment for anybody who's a gamer. We take it as completely natural that you would be in an algebra class for 12 weeks, and then I would give you a test on algebra, maybe one designed in some other state, to see whether you learned any algebra. We take that as natural. We do it every day. So let's say a kid plays Halo on hard, and he takes 30, 40 hours, and he finishes Halo. Would you be tempted to give him a Halo test? No, not at all. You'd say the game already tested him. So let's think, why is it that we're not tempted to give him a Halo test, but we are tempted to give that algebra test and use that as the judgment? Well, it's because you actually trust the design and learning of Halo better than you trust the design and learning of that algebra class. And I think that's where we're going. We're going to be able to create learning that is so immersive, so deep, so rich in information about the development of people in that learning space, that the idea that we let some tests made in a different state trump what happens outside of that learning will become primitive. We will see it as a very primitive thing. What I'm pushing is really not digital media, first and foremost. It's what I call situated and embodied learning. And what I mean by that is being able to solve problems with what you know, not just know a bunch of inert facts, but be able to use facts and information as tools for problem solving in specific contexts, being able to do stuff. Now, if you think about this, this is actually returned to an earlier age, because in the 18th and 19th century, most scientists were amateurs in the sense they didn't have credentials, they didn't work for universities. Darwin never worked for the university. He was, could take care of himself, and he did his science. And people wrote letters. I mean, instead of journal articles, they wrote letters to each other, and they did science together, and they helped each other, and they mentored each other. Schools in America, for the first time in history, have genuine competition. And that's because companies, large and small, are selling 24/7 learning customized to you and your learning style outside of school. And you can learn didactically or in performance-based, any way you want. It's customized to you. Some people are doing it for profit. So we have a curriculum and a school system out of school now, and it's in community centers, it's in libraries, it's in privileged homes. And it's based in this digital learning and also in the situated, contextualized, problem-solving learning where you can do and articulate your knowledge. And it's making some of our skill and drill schools look bad. That system is going to put pressure on schools, and it is already operating by deeper forms of assessment that are built, where the assessment is integrated with the learning, where it's based on copious information, and where it's used to customize the learning back to you, as well as to give information across all the stakeholders so they can resource the learner. It's a new phenomena where we really have two school systems. We have a school system for the 21st century in popular culture where people are thinking about complex systems and learn. Kids are producing their own knowledge, whether it's about the weather or robotics or machinima or digital media. And then we have a school system that's basically giving you the basics of numeracy and literacy. And that pressure, I think, will bring about real change.